Alright, welcome back everyone. This is once again Josh Joshi Howard. Unfortunately, I have lost my co-caster. It is pulling up to 5 a.m. here in Seattle, and Zane Zinza Nelson is going to be retiring for the night. So it's just going to be me and my lovely voice as we get through the rest of the night. Of course, we are joined here by Eyes and Revel, the Japanese casters from the LJL, but we are moving into game number 5 in this best of 5 series between Unsold Stuff and Rampage, and it's going to be a fantastic last game. We've seen a very interesting series as these two teams have evolved as they move forward with the series. So far, it has been Rampage taking the first game, Unsold Stuff taking games 2 and 3, and Rampage evening up the series in game 4 as we move into it. Every game so far, or rather, the first 3 games have been pretty dominant by one team or the other. Rampage, particularly on the back of Yutori Moyashi, getting a lot of damage put down, getting a lot of CS advantages in the bot lane, being such a strong player in the Japanese scene, just getting so much there and being able to transition it into the final decisive team fights. So far, he has had a fantastic games on Lucian in games 1 and 2, even though they lost game 2, and now having a really strong game on the Varus in game 4. His Caitlyn in game 3 was not as impressive. He was not able to generate the lead that he is so used to getting throughout the rest of the series, but he is doing a very good job for himself, really helping put the rest of his team on his back. Yutori and Dara doing such a fantastic job in keeping them, ahead. And here we go, getting into game 5, and once again, Ivan banned first every single game by Rampage. It is clearly something Tussle does not play, and Neo has to, with such a strong target ban against that champion. We're likely to see a lot more target bans once again towards Rampage's bot lane, as Yutori and Dara being so dominant on that Lulu and that Lucian. We're likely going to see another ADC banned against Rampage in just a moment. And, not to talk badly about the rest of the team, Ramune, Tussle, and Evie have been doing good jobs. Ramene's been doing very well on the Syndra in every game. We're going to see a Lucian ban here is going to be my guess, but Ramene's Syndra has been doing solidly. Tussle has had a very solid game. We don't see the Lucian ban, so we're very likely to see that first picked once again by Rampage in order to hand over to Yutori because he's been so aggressive, but they know. So Rampage has to think about that, whether or not they really want to commit that pick and what other things they could potentially pick up for their own team as they move through. But it is the Tahm Kench ban. Tahm Kench has been such a pivotal champion in this series between these two teams, being played so far 3 times and banned in the 4th game and now the 5th game. But Tahm Kench top lane traded between Evie and Apamed, doing a lot of work, being able to use that Abyssal Voyage to get wherever you want. And there we go, the Camille. We're likely to see something like Syndra or Ari coming out right here for Remind in the mid lane, being able to do a whole lot of really solid work in order to get that go button onto the rest of the team. Camille presses R, the Hextech Ultimatum, doing a lot of work separating out the team and, really able to focus down on one character, but instead it looks like we're going to see a Karma picked up for NT in the bot lane. He had a successful game with it. I believe it was game 3, if I remember correctly, where they did quite well, but it's doing a good job. So we're seeing very comfortable champions being picked up for Rampage right now. They start with Yutori with the Lucian. Tussle picks up his Elise, which he has played, I believe, 3 or 4 times in this series, including this game. We're likely to see something very similar, like right here. Oh, that is not what we expected to see. That's probably going to go over to Evie having a good first game on that one. No, he played Tahm Kench in that first game. But still, solid picks for them. Lucian, Elise, and Nautilus. A very solid team comp, has a lot of things they can do. They could be a potentially very strong team fighting team comp as well as a very strong pick team comp. And we'll have to see exactly how they round it out. I would be a little bit surprised if they didn't end up picking up the Syndra for Ramune at some point, but it could be picked away here in just a moment. Alright, we're going to see the next round of bans, and just as my co-caster was saying earlier in the day, the second round of bans is often targeted at the people who have not picked yet. So we have the ADC, the jungle, and the top laner picked up for Rampage. So we're likely to see the support and the mid laner banned out by Unsold Stuff. And on the reverse side, the top and bot lane have been picked up for Unsold Stuff. So RPG is going to ban out the jungler in the mid lane, and there's the Vi targeting Neo. They don't want to give the double go button over to Unsold stuff once again. We saw how dominant that was in game 3. They were able to rapidly push through and just take away everything Tori Moyashi knew and loved. There's the Rumble ban going towards Evi again. I'd be surprised, but that is the power of the flex pick that Nautilus is, being able to be played both in the top lane and in the bottom lane at the same time. Just like the Tom Kench has been historically, and why we've seen a lot of singed bans going towards Oppaman. But the Camille, by picking it first and putting it on Oppaman makes it look, or by being picked by Oppaman, makes it look like it's going top lane, but that could easily be a support and a mid lane Karma. This is something that is not unusual in many other scenes, and with the Arya band, they definitely think it seems to be going towards a support Karma, which is quite likely. But they do end up picking up the Lee Sin right there. Neo's had some great games on Lee Sin. Game 1 was not impressive, but Game 2 and Game... was it 3? No, he had a very impressive game on Lee Sin Game 2. Played Vi Game 3, and then had a good game on Olaf in Game 4. So right now he's going back to Lee Sin. He's had one mediocre game and one strong game. So we'll have to see which Neo does come out this one. They do pick up Ramune Syndra, and that's a champion he's been very proficient at. As said so many times before, half of his games in the regular season has been on that singular champion. It is definitely his iconic champion and something he's very comfortable playing as we move forward. But Dara was picking up Janna. Now, this is not a champion he has played against Unsold stuff previously in the season, and in fact has relatively little play on that champion. But Zyra doesn't necessarily fit the rest of the team comp particularly well. Malzahar is banned away, Thresh is banned away, and Karma's already been picked, so his most played champions are not available to him. So he's going to instead pick up this Janna and help keep Yutori Moyashi alive as much as possible, as well as potentially give him a little bit of a damage advantage down in the bot lane. Excuse me. He does also going to be taking that exhaust right there, simply because of the Katarina on the other side. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but with the exhaust nerf that they had fairly recently, where it does not reduce the attack speed anymore of different champions, many supports are opting not to pick that up anymore, simply because it does not do as much work in the bottom lane, and are instead much more effective when you are able to ignite your opposing laner and potentially create a larger kill pressure rather than simply reducing the kill pressure of your opponent. But that doesn't necessarily apply to champions like Katarina or Camille, who are going to try and want to get onto your ADC anyway. They're going to come in, and you'll be able to exhaust them fairly easily. So that is going to be picked up by Dara as we move here into game number 5. Ugh. Solo casting is much more difficult if you're not familiar with it, but we're going to get through this. Hashtag RPG win or hashtag USG win. I'm sure they'll retweet you if you start tweeting at LJL. It's going to be big. We got a big game coming up right now. This is the final deciding game between these two teams. The winner is going to go play in the LJL finals this Friday starting at 1 a.m. So, Thursday night, Friday morning against Detonation Focus Me, the team that has been the most dominant team in the Japanese esports history in League of Legends. They've been absolutely dominant. They have won the last 4 splits of the LJL scene: Spring Summer 2015, Spring Summer 2016, and they topped the regular season this split as well in Spring 2017. And if they can do it one more time, it'll be fantastic. And they're already waiting in finals for her, whichever one of these teams does come out on top. We don't see anything particularly interesting. Ezreal, by her ready, is picking up a Doran's Blade, something we don't necessarily see, and a longsword picked up by reminds Katarina in the mid lane. Not something I'm used to seeing anyway. I'd have to see how that plays out. It does allow you to get a couple more potions than Doran's Ring would, and the mana doesn't do you any good on Katarina anyway. But one of the things we often see Katarina's do historically has been pick up a Doran's Shield to reduce the auto attack damage that is coming out from your opponent. And it's not the worst idea to do in this lane, but Ramana does a little bit of auto attacking, but his Syndra not necessarily as much as you might think. And so picking up the longsword later to be built in to Hextech Gunblade will, put them a little bit ahead going forward. Tussel's going to start with this Raptors because it spawns just a little bit earlier, a little bit of help from his friends. He'll be just fine. Here we go, Neo and Tussle, as we said, both starting up at the Raptors. A lot of damage being taken, and this is just what happens when you do play as the jungle and try and take the Raptors. But here we go, all the Thunderlords coming out. There are 5 Thunderlords, it's only half, and that's even with all the balance changes to all of the other keystones. It's very strong, but it's definitely not overwhelming as it used to be. Now it's still a very strong keystone, but we see things like Fervor, we see things like Warlords. There's a lot of damage going on to Ramune, and that's, the couple auto attacks coming out from Ramune onto Remind are the reason why you would pick up that Dorn's Shield, for instance, in many cases, and the extra health regen that they're picking up. Goes in, misses the Q from Ramune. Good movement by Remind, able to stay alive a little bit, but that wave is starting to push in towards him, pulling Katarina into positions that they don't necessarily want to be as they start to move around the rest of this map. Ooh, good damage going up from Evi onto Oppaman. Man, it's 5 a.m. I'm starting to cast by myself. This is going to be a lot of talking just by myself, so we'll have a little bit of fun with this. But we're starting to move around a little bit more once again. Neo on the bottom side, and Tussle also moving towards the bottom side. The scuttle pressure from Neo picking that up very quickly at the very start of the game, giving his bot lane a little bit more safety from Tussle's ganks, and instead starting to move in, potentially looking for a counter jungle or even a kill onto Tussle. They don't know quite where he is right now, but they have a good idea now that they're starting to move around and not seeing him on any of his camps. But Neo, the one, is starting to look. That's a couple of big spells used for Ramune. Ooh, good Scatter of the Weak is going to save him from any potential pressure. It's not safe for Neo to go in by himself against a Syndra, even in that situation. Excuse me. Here comes Neo finding Tussle. Cocoon lands, a lot of damage going on to Lee Sin, but he's going to be fine. He's going to safeguard over the wall. Is he going to follow? He chooses not to. The Rappel's not going to be committed into that, not knowing quite where Israel was at the time, but knowing that he was moving up. Instead, he's going to come in, soak a little bit of this farm for his mid laner. I'm sure his mid laner is very happy that that farm is going to be sticking around for just a little bit longer for him to pick that up. But up top lane, we do see Evi and Oppaman. Tussle does find Remind. That is a lot of damage. The Ignite is put down. Tussle should be able to walk away from this just fine, and he does after committing his flash. But there's a lot of damage going down here in this bottom lane. Perhaps this has been the answer all along. Both of the games that Utori has not been able to find an advantage has been against Hereti's Ezreal. Both as the Caitlyn and now on the Lucian, they're having a little bit more trouble finding that farm advantage or just finding the advantage. But the Karma is also doing a lot of work, putting a lot of damage onto that opposing ADC and able to really shove in the lane. The next thing we're going to have to see is whether or not Utori is given so much side farm, so much extra farm that he normally wouldn't get as that ADC, because Rampage's strategies have historically revolved a lot around the power of the ADC. And there we go, a little bit of aggression coming in. That shield from Dara is doing a lot of work, preventing a lot of return damage from Hereti, but they're already in a little bit of a damage disadvantage right now, simply due to how much damage NT's Karma does do in this game, simply from having great base damages on all of her abilities, having access to her ultimate at level 1. But Piercing Light coming out, doing some pretty good damage to all the other players in this game. And we're looking at a gank right now. Evi and Tussle looking towards the top lane, choosing to back away. Flash forward from NT, getting the snare. Not finalized on Dara, who does flash out, but it is potentially going to be this first dragon, as Neil is starting to solo it. I don't believe they know where Tussle is, which could be potentially dangerous. He might need a little bit of help, but there is a lot. He's going very low. And this Ocean Dragon during the laning phase is very impactful. Does manage to pick it up uncontested. That should be really good for unsold stuff in order to really start pressuring this bot lane even further due to the damage that slow mitigation of the sustain that it provides. Otherwise, this game is looking pretty much even. No particular advantages in any specific lane, although Katarina, good stun by Tussle, picking up Opperman, preventing any further aggression coming out there. But Ramune is keeping Mind a little bit down. Oops. Orb not quite hitting as intended, but it's going to be okay. Tussle's Flash is going to be coming up in a couple minutes, but in the meantime, it's going to be very dangerous as Neo is going to find out Dara here, choosing not to go in on him. That's a lot of potential damage, but this is a potentially really big sandwich. A lot of damage going down onto Tussle. There's no Flash left on that Spider. Uses the Repel to get out, but is not going to be able to get out entirely. That is first blood going over to Enti's Karma, and as we all know, that's where we always want to put our kills, right, guys? But in the meantime, they're going to start moving around. There's no real objectives to take, but so it's just going to be some first blood gold heading over to Unsold stuff. And that's going to be, very helpful as they start moving to the bottom lane. They already had a bit of a lead in terms of damage, and now that we're fighting over this, here comes Rampage not landing the Scatter of the Week, and that is going to be enough to save that red buff for Tussle's revival. Woo! A lot of damage coming out from that Sheen procs off of Heredy's Ezreal. That's his second one, is taking Yutori down to half health by itself. And this could be very explosive, missing the inner flame, but it's going to be alright as I start to move around. He's building towards that Blade of the Ruin King, so he does have a bit of lifesteal. A lot of damage coming out from Heredi and Enti as they just are poking down Yutori's Lucian. But the rest of the map is fairly stable as we look at everything. Jeez, there's just so much damage going down onto Yutori. He's going to have to be very careful, especially now that Remind is able to move around a little bit freer. Not seen by that ward. Whew. Tussle throwing out the stun, a little bit blind. He doesn't know where Remind is, but does know that he's somewhere on the bottom half of the map. And it's very impressive watching competitive levels of play simply because of that. Here comes Ramune. Does flash and manages to get out, but that Dragon's Rage could have very easily turned into a kill. So good awareness on Ramune and not letting that surprise gank by Neo actually take him out. But again, Heredi's Ezreal is able to put a lot of pressure down onto Yutori. I'm not sure if it's Heredi's skill with Ezreal or if it's just an unsurety from Yutorian team, because they have not been able to put as much pressure onto this team at all. Instead, just slowly waiting for things to happen. But here we go. Evie is not seen by Opperman. He's moving around here. Tussle is coming up. This could be really big. Does get that up, but what a champion, guys. Camille's just going to use that hook shot to get away, not even having to commit the flash to escape. But you know who did commit a flash to escape? That's Ramune, and that's going to be something that's going to be really dangerous, especially coming up in the next couple of minutes, due to the fact that Lee Sin is going to have Dragon's Rage up. He, in fact, already does, long before Ramune has his flash available, and is going to just continue pressuring that mid lane, hopefully getting Remind a little bit, a better position as we start to move forward. Is starting to move into the jungle once again, knowing that the red buff is a very common crossing point for Tussle as he moves between the Rays and the Krugs on the bottom half of the map. But there we go, some aggression coming out of Yutori. That's what we're used to seeing, just getting pushed back a little bit as Karma throws out that Q, does a good bit of damage, but nullified almost entirely by the shields. Items start to become available. There goes the cocoon onto Neo. A lot of damage knocked up once again by Janna. Calling tries to come out, not getting a whole lot of damage across, doing some damage to Enti, but taking a lot back. And that's a lot of damage coming out from Heredi's Ezreal just from having the Sheen, and just knowing that there's no way for Yutori to trade back against him while he's using that ability, while using the colon. It's going to be able to put him in a fantastic position. Now he's going to have to try and lifesteal back up before this next dragon spawns in a minute, or actually likely going back to pick up the rest of the Blade of the Ruined King in order to be able to really fight for this dragon as uh, Rampage's team comp really starts to come online with the mid-game Nautilus picking up a lot of items. Blade of the Ruined King onto the Lucian, a much earlier power spike than Ezreal's Triforce or Manamune, as well as Syndra's Unleashed Power doing immense damage at this point of the game, hitting a lot of damage from getting those, max rank Q, but not necessarily having any MR that he has to shred through. And there we are once again, picking up a Negatron cloak right there. Uh-oh. Evi's found out by Neo doing a lot of damage, and look at the damage Neo does right here. Using the Death Charge, not hitting the Scatter of the Weak. That's going to be big. Uh-oh. Remind is going in with the Blade Flurry, and it's going to be enough. They did end up picking up Neo, but Remind's in a very bad spot. Remind, man, it's hard to talk. It's late at night. Alphaman's looking for Tussle right now. Dara does commit the Monsoon in order to get his jungler out of there safely. But that does leave Utori on the other side of the map alone against two people pushed in a little bit, but not having a significant disadvantage due to the fact that NT was looking to support the rest of his team. But Dara's coming back on the bottom lane, doing a lot to really help the rest of his team. Ooh, that's a lot. And that inner flame not visible due to some kind of visual bug, and Utori ended up standing in it simply because it didn't look like he knew where the boundaries were. Here we go, let's take a look at that fight again. Evi's getting caught out by Neo, thinks that he's caught out the Lee Sin, but it's not. The Scatter of the Weak does not manage to pick him up, and because of that, with no CC left between Evi and Ramana, Remind is free to move in. The Dragon's Rage over the wall is very good, but the flash forward by Remind is going to be enough. The Sonic Wave ends up getting a final kill, but it's going to be very interesting as we start moving around here. All the gap closers and dashes between these three champions is fantastic as they move around to try and maneuver and focus different targets. And right now, as the 3-0 kill lead is going in favor of Unsold Stuff, we're looking at a very dangerous position as we start to move towards this first Mountain Dragon of the game. And Ramune potentially in a bad spot. His flash is still not up yet, but Neo's Dragon's Rage has been up and been used multiple times now as we start to move into the 14-15 minute mark. And as we do that, let's take another quick look at what's going on. Uh-oh. We've seen this movie before. Evi and Neo are finding each other. Evi's going to knock out this pink ward. Good job on him. But this Mountain Dragon's still alive. Now, if it survives to the 20-minute mark, I'll be very surprised because we're in a very dangerous spot right now. It's a slight gold lead for Unsold Stuff, about a little more than 1,000 gold lead, which is not irrelevant at this point in the game. It does mean you're hitting item spikes just a little bit earlier, but it's mostly on just one or two champions, and right now it looks like it's going to be on the Lee Sin. And at this point in the game, Lee Sin is a very strong champion due to his really high base damages and ability to move around super quickly before people have built up a lot of resistances or have built up more damage. He's able to power through with his base stats very quickly, and with the Hex Drinker up, he's going to be much more difficult to be killed by Evi, Tussle, and Ramune. The Utori is not going to care about that too much. He's just going to pound him down with the piercing lights and the auto attacks. But right now we're in a spot. Utori and Dara do not have an advantage like they're used to, and they do see Tussle as he's starting to move around this dragon, looking for any kind of advantage they can get before the dragon actually happens. They want to be able to pick something up, and there's a big power spike on Utori, getting a lot of damage off of that culling onto Hereti. Not as much as he may have liked, but it's definitely a situation which they do want to start pressuring for all of that damage. And we Remind getting some fancy feet going off with, Katarina, something Katarina has always been known for, although it's a little bit different now with the changes to the daggers. Uh-oh, Utori taking a lot of damage, but putting a lot of it back. Now that he's finally hit that power spike of the Blade of the Ruined King, he's able to trade back a lot more effectively as Karma does start to fall off a little bit now that the Blade of the Ruined King is complete and all of the lifesteal is available. The poke does not matter as much. But here we go. Second dragon, Mountain Dragon, being picked up by Neo. They don't have vision on it due to the expiration of the Scuttler Crab. So there's going to be a second dragon going over to Unsold stuff, uncontested, as they move around. And here we see Neo going and having so far a fantastic game on this Lee Sin, picking up both dragons by himself, as well as getting both 2 kills and a third assist, really helping out the rest of his team. But he will need to transition it well for the rest of his team even further, due to the fact that Lee Sin is not a late game champion. He has his kick and he has his mobility and ability to potentially engage fights very effectively. Oops, scared of the weaknesses once again. But here we go. Yutori and Dar are doing a lot of damage to NT down here in the bot lane. Without vision on Remind, it's going to be dangerous for them to come in. And here comes Nia running at them really fast with just those level 1 boots. Gets the Sonic Wave. Cute. Very cute. And Neo's Lee Sin, I believe that's just such a good way to describe his Lee Sin. He just does stuff like that all the time. He'll jump forward, bait out an ability or two, and then just dash backwards. You know, not really having a whole lot of effect, but being fun. Just doing little things just because he can. AMA Lee Sin main. But he is starting to fall behind a decent amount in farm, and in fact, that's one of the largest CS deficits in terms of the jungle we've seen this entire series. A 30 CS advantage by Tussle as he starts to move around the map, pick up all of those tiny Krugs moving around, and just starting to do a whole lot. NT and Neo do find this pink ward right here, and they're going to be able to pick that up as well, starting to get a lot more pressure onto the top half of the map in terms of the vision control that they have available to them. But we are going to be moving into some very dangerous territory. We saw last game, you know, how patient Rampage was, just waiting for the proper fight. They finally find the fight they want to find, they get the fight they want, and then they instantly end the game off of it. And this is something that we could very easily see them do once again. They're only behind about 500 gold, slowly shrinking that. Despite the fact that they're down 3 kills, they are able to start picking up, you know, a greater CS lead both in the jungle and in the top lane. Evie is slowly grinding it out across his opposing top laner in Oppaman. And if they can continue to slowly build those advantages, it will, or it should, culminate into a winning situation for this team. Here we go, Oppaman and Evie trading a lot, just finally getting through that W shield eventually, but with the true damage, it's a lot. And look at that, getting all the cooldowns down on Oppaman, getting a very good trade back with the corrupting potion and the auto attacks coming back on to Oppaman's Camille. But right now we're seeing an interesting situation. NT has the mobility boots, but hasn't necessarily converted that into a whole lot of pressure elsewhere on the map, just getting the 1 kill for themselves during the large team fight. No, that was when they called out Tussle. That's correct. But here we're seeing a very difficult spot. Oppaman getting caught up by Evie, going in, going very aggressive, but here comes the counter gank. Oppaman's getting torn down. Neo's going to have to run away. He uses the Dragon's Rage, but he's going to be in a very difficult spot trying to take down Tussle. There's no way for Remind to get there in time. That's going to be a second kill coming in. A double kill, actually, going over to Tussle. That's going to be very big, evening up the jungle pressure. And Ramune and Remind just fighting each other. Ramune doing a good job of preventing Remind from traveling up top, because you might get the turnaround from Remind, but you get the turnaround once again from Ramune, and that is going to be the first turret of the game going down, giving the bonus gold over to Tussle and Evie, giving them a 3,000 gold lead from what started as a 500 gold deficit. Here we go, Ramune and Remind, bad spot, getting some good damage on. Scatter of the Weak is finally used, but it's going to be too late. Ramune is taken down as they blow the flash, but here comes Tussle getting the return kill onto Rewind. Evie does manage to pick it up, giving an extra assist over it. Here comes NT and Oppaman doing a lot of damage to Evie. He's very tanky, but not that tanky yet. Tussle's going to come back, gets the stun onto Oppaman, and Evie's going to have to run away. Dara comes around, giving the shield over to Evie. Dredgeline misses, but this fight just keeps going on and on as he gets the stun down onto Neo. So much damage, they have so much CC, and they're doing a great job of trading who's on the front lines, and that is going to be it. It's going to be a 1-for-2 so far on in favor of Rampage as they start to move towards this mid lane. Yutori's got a lot of damage now. Dredgeline comes in, gets onto Neo, lots of damage coming in. Yutori gets the culling going across the entire enemy team. They're not going to finalize any kills, but they are going to get a lot of damage here onto this mid lane turret with Tussle and Evie quite low. I don't know if they'll be able to finish it, especially with the next dragon coming up. They're going to want to be in a position where they can contest it. But there we go. Yutori, Moyashi starting to come online, starting to build up that CS advantage over his opponent. But here, let's take a look at this replay again. No Scatter the Weak yet, waiting until he starts the ultimate, potentially a little bit late, but getting a lot of damage onto him anyway, allowing Remind and Evie to pick it up. Good awareness on that auto attack, not having to do a whole lot, and using this dredge line to escape, dodging the stun from Oppamen. Fantastic, and the Courage of the Colossus is going to be so much. Tussle gets a little bit of health back from the Honey Fruit, and Dara with the Flash Shield is going to be good enough to get the red buff kill onto Neo. Neo tries to get away with the exhaust, making sure he can't do a whole lot to help the rest of the team, and with his ultimate up, he potentially could have gone a little bit deeper, but not confident in doing so, and ends up letting those kills potentially slip away. Interesting pink ward placement, but with the dragon coming up, this could be potentially really big. Dara's moving around. This is the first time the RPG has been in a position to contest. Here comes the teleport out of Evie. They are going to try and want to find Neo, doing a little bit of damage, dashing forward once again by Yutori. That's kind of been the story of when he's been good. Drakeling lands onto Enti. This could be good. Scatter the Weak across 3 members. Enti and Neo going very low. Ramne trying to kill Remind, and there goes the unleashed power onto Remind and Neo, but Evie is tanky. He is very tanky. He's a very large undead person, but there we go. Evie getting a flash dredge line onto Heredi once again. That isn't Ezreal. He's very slippery. But on the back side, Yutori picks up not only the dragon, but Neo as well. That's a 2 for 0 plus the dragon. And it looks like RPG is pinging towards the Baron right now. It's only 23 minutes. They're not particularly tanky yet, so they could take a lot of damage. But with the opposing jungler dead, this is about as good of a time as any to start doing it. And with the Blade of the Ruin King on Yutori and the Mountain Drake they just picked up, and Enti goes down across the wall as the Scatter of the Weak and the Culling do manage to pick him up. That's going to be the uncontested Baron. Beautiful play coming out of Rampage, and they are in a fantastic spot to potentially crush down the rest of this game and take the series in Game 5. Tussle is starting to look towards the mid lane. They are pinging towards that mid lane turret. They do want to take that down, get a little bit more gold in their pockets before they do choose to back and then go do the same thing in the bot lane. The Baron Empowered Recalls means they should be safe to get out of here very quickly. And let's take a look one more time at that fight. We do see Yutori dashing forward before Evie going forward. He gets the dredge line onto Enti here, getting a weird little thing. Scatter the Weak comes across Oppamen and Neo, while Remind jumps onto Ramane, but the exhaust coming out is doing work, preventing so much damage from Remind, and does manage to pick that up. Meanwhile, Yutori does dash into the dragon pit, but he doesn't have any more dashes left. When this flash down, he was trying to pick up the dragon. That is more gold going over to Yutori Moyashi, who has been the star of Rampage throughout this series. But Remind and Neo looking for a little bit more damage onto Ramane in order to try and reduce the pressure coming out from that team. But they are going to trade that pressure onto Ramane in exchange for the bot lane turret, which, let's face it, was likely going to be going down anyway. And that is Yutori going big as they start to move forward. He is finally got a reasonable CS lead for the first time in this game, but not the first time in this series. By 30 to 40 minutes, we could very easily see that transition from a 20 CS lead to a 100 CS lead, as that's just the way that Yutori and Rampage play, dodging that out, and we still don't see Dredge line misses, but we still don't see the Trinity Force completed yet for Heredi, so that could be very big and is a big part of why this game is going as it is. Yutori has an item, or 2.5 items complete to the item and a half just completed for Heredi, and this damage crushing down the turret with the Mountain Drake and the extra auto attacks from Lucian's passive is going to give them just that much more gold, sitting at nearly a 10,000 gold lead at this point at 25 minutes. But here we go. We're moving towards the mid lane. This could be dangerous. Dreadline misses, forcing the flash out of Enti. Evie's going to move forward, taking up a little bit of damage. And that's going to be the second inner turret the RPG does manage to find this Baron, and with the wave already starting to move up towards the top lane, this could be all three inner turrets, which would be huge in terms of the gold as it transitions from one team to another. We had a small gold lead. Uh-oh, Dredge Lane lands onto Neo, getting a little bit of damage, but mostly just scaring the crap out of Unsold stuff. Neo's looking around the side, trying to find a good engage, gets cocooned up off on the side, not going to be able to do a whole lot. And now that they see that Rampage is starting to position towards the top half of this lane, making it that much harder for Neo to find a good engage. Uh-oh, there he goes. He goes in, does not manage to find the kick. He's getting pushed out and finally brought down by Ramen as they fight. And nobody on Rampage is that low. They get one, they get two. And here we go. Heredy's got nowhere to run. He gets picked up. That's another one for Syndra. Here we go. Tussle's going to find Anti. Uh-oh, does manage to find the blast cone, misses the cocoon, and that's going to be a 3-for-1 as they start to move around the rest of the map. They are going to get this first inhibitor turret of the game, and at 27 minutes, this could very easily be the rest of the game as they start to move 5v3. Evie got the empowered recall and managed to come back, and now he has a guardian angel as well as his 2 defensive items. There's no Baron, but Optimum caught out by the Scatter of the Weak is going to get caught down. He was too weak, and this could be the very end of the game. Rampage is going to go up, and they are going to finalize this game as there's only NT left to defend, and this is going to be the champion, not the championship, but the semifinal game going over in favor of Rampage as they managed to crush down the game. There's such decisive shot calling after picking up that Baron. We saw what was just a slight lead for Unsold stuff, unchallenged by Rampage until they finally explodingly take down all of Unsold stuff, and there is nothing left for them to do. There is nothing left for them to unsell, and that is going to be the final game for Rampage. Congratulations to these guys. They've fought really hard. It's been a long game, or a long series, a full 5 games. It is 5:30 in the morning here in Seattle, so I won't be online too much longer, but absolutely massive. And for once in this series, that was not that large of a advantage by Yutori. He ended up not doing as much, and that was just well coordinated, solid team fighting coming out from Rampage, picking up a whole lot of stuff, getting some good picks onto NT towards the Baron, ensuring they could take it uncontested, picking that up, and then fantastic rotations around as they move from the bot lane to the mid lane to the top lane, finding a good engage from Evie with the dredge line, and then, or no, Neo came around. Unfortunately was not able to get the kick, and was potentially an ill-advised attempt, but it's okay. They did a fantastic job. Neo overall from the series cannot be criticized too harshly due to how well he played in games 2, 3, and 4. But unfortunately, it was not enough. Yutori, Ramune, Dara, Tussle, and Evie are going to take on Detonation Focus Me, led by Utapon and friends, in what will be the finals in the League of Legends Japan League this Friday, starting at 1 a.m., Thursday night, Friday morning. Of course, it's going to be a fantastic series, I'm sure. But here we go. It's going to be a fun night. Once again, 3-2 in favor of Rampage over Unsold stuff. Thank you for watching, everyone. Here we're going to go through the handshakes. Unfortunately, my Japanese is not good enough to really understand what they will be talking about during the post-game interviews and all that fun stuff. But as soon as we pop up the replays, we'll go over that a little bit, and then I will be signing off for the night. But yeah, it's been a great series. Once again, Yutori carrying at least 2 of the games. Ramune, Tussle, Evie doing very solidly, but this series has really been the story of Yutori and Neo in these games. Neo going absolutely massive on the Lee Sin, absolutely massive on the Vi. His flash Vi Q play to ultimate was fantastic. But here we go. Let's take a look at this last fight. Neo attempts to go in, takes a decent chunk of his health while the Baron minions are starting to hit down onto this cannon, but he'll try one more time, and it's not going to be enough. Here we go. We'll see him go in. He tries to get the flash, get onto Yutori. He does use it, but he kicks him into the wall. Great awareness by Yutori, and then with the first member already dead, the Dredge Lane picks up Katarina. Unsold stuff is routed. There's nothing left for them to do. They need to be able to get as many people out alive. They do get Entia alive for now. Oh, they just get him out alive. And then with Evie's teleport back, he'll just come back at full health with a Guardian Angel, a little bit more items, and there's not a whole lot that can be done. The Scatter of the Week comes out. It's a good stun onto Opament, absolutely cementing the game from what was already a very likely victory into a guaranteed victory, and that was absolutely fantastic. And it was a it's a very well fought team fight by RPG. Utori managing to not die definitely saved them the game, but that cocoon at the end, just the icing on the cake. It was very well played by everyone in the series. I really enjoyed casting it. Once again, this has been Joshua Joshi Howard. Unfortunately, I don't have my co-caster Zane Zinzin Nelson at this point, but thank you for watching, and we're signing out. Good night.